So this is the top 3 most dangerous hidden dock hazards, number 3. Hi, my name is Jim Dodge, licensed home inspector, dock builder with over 15 years dock building experience. And the third most dangerous dock hazard is UV exposure. This is by far the most common one, and this is the one that does the most damage to your waterfront property assets, therefore having an effect on your lakefront property, riverfront property value. So UV exposure absolutely destroys docks, and it's also counterintuitive to how home inspectors are trained. By far, the number one enemy of a home's building component is water intrusion, water damage. That could be from interior plumbing. We are trained to look around all the protrusions that go in the crawl space, around the toilet, and then the roof, all that kind of stuff destroys your house. You get wood destroying fungus and all of that. Everything is backwards on a dock. In a home, you have perfect UV protection from all of the cladding and other building. Your internal framing is not going to get any exposure to sunlight. On the other hand, it's very, very hard to do ventilation. So one of the key things we look for in an attic and in a crawl space is how well ventilated it is, what's the relative humidity, is the humidity having an effect on the building components, is the ventilation adequate, do you have moisture down there, and it's a very, very, very common problem. Out here on a dock, you have 100% UV exposure, no protection, and perfect ventilation. So home inspectors aren't trained to think this way. It's the exact opposite. And they think, well, it's sitting on water, we're gonna be looking for water damage. I see home inspectors doing a dock inspection and they're just kind of making it up because they kind of know how to inspect decks. We are trained how to inspect decks. That looks very similar. It's very different in a lot of ways. Summers during college, to make money, I actually worked for an international paper company in Leola, Arkansas, in a sawmill. Very hard work. One of the things you do when you take raw logs and turn them into dimensional lumber, besides the actual sawmill, there's a planer mill, then there's a kiln that dries this out. It has extremely high moisture content. It comes in off of the log yard. However, you don't completely dry it out. Building components, in order for them to function, absorb moisture with the relative humidity that's in the house, and it requires a certain amount. It's very low. It never needs to go over like 19%, but it must have a certain amount of moisture. When it's out here in the sun all of the time, you see the wood that turns gray. That is from the UV exposure. It's almost like being in an oven. It's the perfect circumstance. You have usually out here on the lake, so there's no trees. You don't have any of the shade. And then it's almost like the ladies that have the sunscreen. All of the UV exposure from the lake is shining on here. All summer long, this thing is getting absolutely beat up and obliterated by the sun. And a lot of times I will go look at a dock that looks like it's 40 years old. It's gray, weathered, checked, cracking, and it might be a 3, 4, 5-year-old dock that just was not maintained and treated properly. And then you get checking and cracking. So a check, you see a split in a wood that from it being dried out. And then a crack is when that split goes all the way through. There's a definition, engineering definition difference between a check and a crack. The other thing you'll see is actually curled up. They're so dry. It's like if you just put a piece of wood in the oven, or if you put anything in the oven and leave it in there too long, it's just going to get completely burnt, but also completely dried out. You'll see the deck boards just actually come out of the nails because they've curled up so much from shrinking and drying and curling up. The solution for this is really simple. Either a paint or a sealant or a stain that has UV protection. You add years to your life, and it is a critical thing. You spend a lot of money to have these waterfront property assets just a little bit more. It's not very expensive to do to actually protect them from people underestimate how much damage UV does to your structure. It just absolutely destroys docks very quickly, accelerates their lifespan. All right, so my name is Jim. I am a licensed home inspector. If you have a dock in North Carolina or South Carolina, I'm happy to come inspect it. So that's all. Thanks for watching.